So you want to beat an Abloy, huh? Well, a guy named Kenny McElroy, who lives up in Oregon, he's a locksmith and a security consultant, has come up with a technique, and he sent me all the parts to demonstrate it for you. Now, before we start getting into it, I want you to know Kenny's worked with his Abloy representative over a long period of time. He's made multiple approaches to Abloy Corporation describing this design defect in Abloy locks, and he's gotten no reply from them whatsoever. So we've done everything we can to work with industry to try to improve this product. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this weakness, but before we do, it is a 17-year-old design. And it's very rare to find a successful picking of an Abloy lock on YouTube, and that's because it is so hard. There's a lot of faked ones out there. And the reason it's so hard is because inside of an Abloy, you see all these little discs that spell out. There are 16 of them inside of an Abloy. Each of these discs has to be rotated to a very precise angle to line up with the grooves on the key. And I have a key here. So 16 discs means there are 16 very precisely angled cuts on the key within a couple of degrees. So your chances of getting this, you really got about a 10 times better chance of hitting the lottery than you do of randomly picking an Abloy lock. A lot of people have tried, and probably just about an equal number of people have failed. Well, we can't pick it. We've looked at the design. This particular lock, all the discs are mounted on this shaft. This shaft is mounted inside of here. There's the keyway. Put the key in the front. And then this entire thing is mounted into the housing like this. And this is held inside of the housing by this little copper ring that you see here. Come on, focus. Very thin copper ring, and this one's been exploited already, but I've got this Abloy. You can see it intact on this lock. That is the only thing holding the core inside of here. So Hanfei came up with a technique, first of all, several years ago, where he would take a piece of machine steel shaped about the same as a key. He would shove it into the keyway, and of course it wouldn't turn, and then he would apply a lot of torque, and he would break. Where did it go? He would break this brass piece. Now inside of this brass piece, the reason he had to break it is we have a sidebar. This is a security bar. So if we do it right, and this is always sticking up when it's locked, if we do it right and we pick the lock, all the grooves line up perfectly. This little sidebar kind of falls down inside of the grooves, and we can turn it. Well, you might say, well, that's not a big deal. Well, let's take a look at the grooves. On this one, you see the main groove, the very deep one located about 12 o'clock, and then you see a lot of other little grooves, different widths, different depths, and those are called false gates. So it's no easy task trying to find the right gate when you pick this. Like I said, 1 in a 16 billion chance of randomly picking an Abloy lock. It's just not going to happen. So we're really looking at exploits. Okay, so Hanfei invented the technique, if you twist it, you can shear it, but then Abloy came out and they said, we're not going to let people do that. So they started making these things, at least in their more expensive locks, out of steel, so you can no longer overcome this brass piece. Well, Kenny started looking at the locks, and he says, well, we've tried picking it, that doesn't work. And we've also tried twisting it, and that probably will no longer work. So how do we get into this thing? Well, what happens if we were to apply some pressure, say with a 5/16 bolt? And fellas, you see my fingers. Don't hold this with your fingers. Lesson learned. We're going to hold it with a pair of needle nose pliers. What if we lined that up with the keyway, held it with a pair of needles, and then hit the back of that bolt with a hammer? The theory is that when we apply the pressure, the only thing holding the core in there is this cheap, very soft piece of copper. We could overcome that copper, and then all of the guts of this lock will be pooped out of the back, and there we go. We just defeated the Abloy. So why don't I clamp up? I have a couple of locks here. Let's take this brand new one. This is, Kenny sent me this, and let's see if we can make this technique work while it's clamped up in a vise, which will simulate a door or a cash register or a vending machine, whatever. So let's do that. Alright fellas, it hurts me to do this. This is a brand new Abloy lock. Kenny sent this to me, even though I didn't pay for it. Still, the idea of destroying a brand new lock just hurts my heart. There you see the actuator turning on the back, and when the key is partially in, it'll still turn, but it doesn't move the actuator. And you'll see the guts soon enough. Okay, we probably won't ever need that key again. I'm going to clamp this up in the vise just to retain it, like it's in a door or a cash register or something, just to hold it in place. Now I've got a GoPro on the back, it'll catch the guts falling out. What I'm going to do is just try to work around the camera just a bit here. I'm not going to use my fingers up there. I'm just going to take this 5/16 half-inch long bolt, hold it with needle nose pliers, and just give it a wrap to try to compromise that copper retaining ring. Try not to drop it. And there we go. All the guts are now out. I had hoped to catch them in a cup, there we go, on the other side, and the GoPro should have caught that in fairly slow motion. But there's our discs that have now come off of the pack, and I'm looking for the retaining ring, but it must have flown out with some violence. I don't see it in the cup or on the tabletop. I'll look around and see if I can't find that, and we'll wrap this video up. Alright, that technique seems to work pretty good, but I'm curious if it'll work on a mortise lock. Here, this one is perfect. It's a little bit older, but it's the only one I have in my collection that still works perfectly. Never been able to pick it, of course, but maybe today we'll get into it. Maybe not the preferred technique. This one's going to be a little bit different because it doesn't have a sunken keyway. So I have to kind of keep it balanced on the top there. And let's see if we can shear that same thing. Alright, again, hopefully we'll catch it on with the GoPro. It's starting to come out the back. I can see it from the bottom. I think you can too. The GoPro certainly will catch it. And it's completely sheared out. Let's take the screwdriver, poke it out all the way. And the same thing happened. I think we caught, we caught the copper piece. That's why I wasn't able to find it, I think. And this pack came out very complete. Everything is there. There's your sidebar, ball bearings, another little, I don't even know what that piece is, something sheared off, and your entire pack came out in its entirety. So I wonder if the key, if we were to place that key in there, if it would still line up. It does perfectly. So there, let me zoom in just a bit so you can see exactly what I'm trying to show here. There's everything lined up on those discs, and then as you remove your key, some of them are not lined up, so that little bar will not go down inside of the groove there. But when we turn that key, everything lines up beautifully, as you see there, and that little bar does sink in and allow us to turn. So what a great system this is. Too bad we defeat it so easily, because everything hinges on this little copper retaining ring. Crazy talk. That, guys and girls, is how you defeat an Abloy lock using nothing but a 5/16 inch, half-inch long bolt. Thanks to Kenny McElroy up in Oregon for sending me all the locks and the idea and giving me the chance to make the video for him. Everybody else, stay safe, and for goodness sake, stay legal.